Sportsmanship, leadership, inspire, determination, excitement. Welcome to the Slide Podcast. Your hosts, Jen and Aaron, are on deck and ready to introduce the current stars of Little League Baseball. So grab your favorite sports drink, fasten your chin strap, and get ready to go inside the chalk lines of our Little League fields. Here are your hosts, Coach Jen and Coach Aaron.
So welcome back to the Slide Podcast. So we're joined today's episode with Patrick and Mark from DuraEdge. A couple things that we always want to make sure that we talk about on the show is really around player experience, coaches experience, and a lot of that falls on like the play-in surface that we're out there playing with. And we've all seen injuries. We've all seen, those fields that we wish were taken care of better because they can lead to disastrous outcomes. And we want to be able to provide you a solution today and potentially some information on how to improve your field's quality and take care of your kids and give them the best opportunity to be the best player they can be out there on the field. So we welcome Patrick and Mark. So how are you guys doing?
Hey, great. Thank you.
And
great.
Jen,
thanks for having us.
You there with us? Welcome, everyone. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Mark, where are you at today?
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri today, actually at a baseball field, coaching a practice of 14-year-old travel team. And Patrick, I think you're at home, right? You're in Maryland?
Yes, I'm at home at Bel Air, Maryland today.
Awesome. Well, hey, so tell us a little bit about DuraEdge. So I stumbled upon you guys through Instagram. I think it was a commercial or something that popped up, but it caught my attention because you guys were talking about the science of like how you guys design fields. You do Little League field renovations. You do, I think, everything up till like minor league and maybe even Major League Baseball parks, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so the DuraEdge surface, the infield mix is an infield mix, is our brand of infield mix. And, started out at the Major League level. And I don't know what the number is, Patrick, on the total number of Major League surfaces they're on, but it's a big number, right? 26 out of 30.
That's correct. And I believe we're up to 75% of all professional baseball at this point.
Yeah.
So the material that you guys use on the infield, that 26 of the fields in Major League Baseball, that material comes from you guys, right?
Yeah, and 120 of the 150 affiliated professional fields, minor league baseball, basically. 120 of the 150 that remain are DuraEdge surfaces.
What makes it special?
That's where we started. It's basically, Patrick can give you the science behind it. I can give you from a coach's standpoint. Basically, it provides the perfect ball bounce at the right moisture level. It's basically at the right moisture level, which, by the way, also repels water. It also provides the perfect ball bounce and the perfect playing surface for like cleat in, cleat out as guys are running and fielding the ball. So Patrick can give the science behind that, but it's magic stuff. At the right moisture level, it repels water, allows you to respond from rainouts, and it provides the perfect moisture, perfect playing surface.
And so what's that look like, Patrick?
Yeah, so that's the big word. When DuraEdge was the first to actually put the science behind infield mix. For years and years, groundskeepers like myself, we had all different kinds of tricks to take an existing infield mix and try to amend it with different products like calcined clays and vitrified clays and all different kinds of stuff. And, we groundskeepers in the past used to take all different kinds of products and amend the existing material to try to make it better. A lot of that had to do with increase the moisture management, increase the stability. And we were always searching and trying different things. And, DuraEdge came along and actually said, if we just make the dirt better, we can stop having to add all these products into this existing mix. The quality of the mix you had was completely dependent upon what part of the country you were in.
Right.
Some areas had different, decent mixes. Some areas were terrible, and everything in between.
I don't mean to interrupt you there, but Jen and I both are from South Carolina, and red clay dirt is what we're built on. I think that's our foundation.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very familiar with those products down there. I spent some of my time. I was in North Carolina as a groundskeeper twice. I was in South Carolina, so very familiar with what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's, so you had, and then taking a taking care of a ball field in the south was completely different than the north. It was crazy. So DuraEdge came along and actually did some research and some, development, and took the sand, silt, and clay portions and put it in the right proportion.
Right.
That combined with the actual clay source that is unique to DuraEdge, and they came up with a magical mix. And what that did for sports turf managers, it really made our lives a lot easier. In short, the best story I can tell is my time at Ripken Baseball when we put it into the stadium after some of our tournaments where we would put 15, 16 games in Saturday and Sunday. I would tell my higher ups, Monday became it wasn't a repair, it was a rebuild. We were completely
nightmare
redoing everything. Yeah,
right.
It was. But when we started using the DuraEdge product now, all day infield repair became a little extra time at first, a little extra time at second, and then I'm dragging and I'm rehydrating it, and that's about it. So from a maintenance standpoint, it completely changed everything we did. Now we had time to do other things. So, like I said, we made our name at the higher levels in Major League Baseball and minor leagues, but the fact that it made the maintenance of these surfaces so much easier, we were able to, as long as we educated the people that took care of high schools, took care of little leagues, they realized, wow, this really does make a safer playing surface and it's easier to do.
Mark called out earlier, like less rainouts in the South. It's almost like the beginning of every season we experience like this rainy season almost. And
Sure.
So the fact that DuraEdge like prevents rainouts, what do you mean when you say prevents rainouts from happening? How does it do that?
Well, basically, it gives you the best tool possible to combat bad weather. Clay source that I refer to, the job of clay in an infield mix is to absorb water.
Right.
When you're talking about an infield dirt draining, that's kind of it's kind of the wrong word. So if you take drainage, remove that word and replace it with stability. So what does that infield dirt do when it is wet? And a DuraEdge infield tends to play better the wetter it gets.
Wow.
So
that's the thing. We showed up to a tournament last year, my team and I, and we drove an hour and a half to get there. That's the first thing that, as a coach, I'm thinking is like the drainage of the field is just horrible. And because I don't know any better, right? I don't have the scientific knowledge that you guys deal with. And I think a lot of it comes down to, and I'm a big lawn nut as well. My wife drives me crazy because I'm constantly out working on my grass. But a lot of it comes down to the soil and just helping, the additives that you guys add. So I know one of the things that, your company definitely puts out there, and you guys are nationwide too, by the way, right?
That's correct.
And how does that work? So if I'm in Spartanburg, Wolin Springs, South Carolina, how do I get DuraEdge to come to my area?
Well, that's the beauty of putting the science behind it, because what DuraEdge did was it's a computerized process. They made a recipe. And by making that recipe, it can be replicated throughout the country. So we have many different plants throughout the country. So the material you get in Utah is the exact same thing that the Red Sox are playing on in Boston.
Wow. Okay.
We have our home base is Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Down south, we also have a plant in Florida.
Okay.
So the in between there where you guys are, we'd be shipping it to you probably from Slippery Rock. Everywhere yet, but we're trying. So
it's possible, though.
Yes, it definitely is possible. It's because of that recipe. We can take that clay source and we can ship that clay source to Florida. We find a local sand source that meets our specifications, and we're able to do the mixing at that location to make it more economical for the people down there to actually purchase it.
That's pretty impressive. What do you think, Jen? Like, I think we need DuraEdge in our area.
Yeah.
So, I do too. I'm wondering what the process looks like from start to finish. So if you get a client from Spartanburg and they say, we need our field redone, what's the first step they need to take?
Well, the first thing we do, like if you were to give us a call, say, hey, help us out, what do we do? When I go to inspect a field, I would say 95% of the time, the problems that they're having it's a symptom of a bad grade. So the first thing we start with is to check the grades of that field. Do you have big lips? Do you have low spots? And usually it's check, check, check on all of these things. We work from the inside out, start at the mound and work your way out. So if you have bad grades, it doesn't matter what material you use. Water doesn't discriminate. A low spot is a low spot. You're going to have a puddle in these spots. And if you have those type of puddles, you're not getting your money's worth out of whatever you're purchasing. I have to take the customer through that process and get them to understand if you don't fix the grade, you're going to have long-term problems.
Yeah, it's just going to recreate the problem over and over.
Exactly. Anything short of that is just a Band-Aid, and that Band-Aid will not last long. It's a value proposition. It's going to pay for itself. So once you get that grade fixed, then we can start talking about materials and improving the materials. From there, you have a choice. We have a couple of solutions. It's a 2-inch cap, which is exactly what it sounds like. Say if you're already an inch low on your infield skin, you might want to excavate that extra inch and just put a 2-inch cap on. On the other end of the spectrum, if say your grades are all correct and you just got to fix that material, we got to improve that material. That's where we have our field saver process, where we can take a soil test of that infield skin, and based upon those results, we make a prescription to fix it based upon the sand, silt, and clay proportions that you have. Up here in the mid-Atlantic, a lot of times we were getting very, very silty mixes. Down in South Carolina, they're going to be a little bit higher in clay and low on silt.
Very high in clay.
Yeah. It's not as high as you think. It acts higher because of the low silt content.
Gotcha. Okay.
So a lot of times then the sand is messed up as well. So the prescription we would have down in South Carolina is different than what we would have, in Pennsylvania.
Most of our listeners and our followers on social media are young athletes, are baseball coaches, baseball parents. What would you say to them? Like, what's your sales pitch to the baseball community out there as to why invest in DuraEdge?
Because I might get on my soapbox a little bit here.
Go ahead. I just put it out there for you.
This is something that, when I was in a minor league groundskeeper, inevitably we would get a call from the community. Come check out my field. Help us out. Okay, no problem. I would say, all right, this is what I recommend. Do ABC. And I would get the response, well, this isn't I got my Altoona Curve shirt on. This isn't the curve. These are just kids.
Right.
We don't have to put in that much effort. And it would drive me crazy because these are kids with less athletic ability, less skilled at the game that they're trying to learn. Some of them are growing into their bodies, so they're just less coordinated.
Right.
And you're putting them out on a subpar and sometimes downright dangerous field, and you're expecting them to learn the game of baseball, and it just doesn't make sense. And not only that, it's downright irresponsible when it comes to the safety of these athletes. And, before we started getting recorded, it was, what can we do to change this around? And sometimes it's just a matter of having the will to make the change. There are plenty of people that make the effort, and there's volunteers that work on these fields, but then when it comes down to the board that has to spend the money, they don't understand that dirt just isn't dirt. Yeah, you know what? We have to fix that 6-inch lip on the front of the infield because people are getting hit in the face. And that's the kind of thing, and, I hate to see it. I've spoken to coaches that, we get kids get hit in the face, every practice. And it's like, how can you sit there and let that happen? And so when I got to Ripken, that was one of the things that, was very rewarding because, we were doing more youth baseball than I did the professional.
Right.
Campus. And we're able to show that, it can be done. And we just tried to, I would try to help out as many coaches as I could that I had involvement with to try to show them some of the good things to do in a field and to stop some of the old things that used to be done that, in essence, destroy the field as they go. So,
right. Well, and, a lot of parents, when you hear of a rain out, I know I speak from experience. And the first thing that a parent will say is, well, my kid don't melt. Like, we can play out on that field. It's not raining too much. What a lot of us forget is we mess up that surface that ball bounces on. And, you put a cleat in the wrong way on a wet field, and that's a bad hop away from a doctor's visit or an emergency visit. So
you're absolutely right.
We went to fields before that I hit the first ground ball to first. I'll never forget this. I think it was a year and a half ago, and I hit the ball to first base, and I swear I think I saw the rock pop up that the ball hit and hit the kid right in the face. And at that point, it was just like, we're not going to hit another ground ball on this field, because it's just, like you said, it's irresponsible to continue to, put a kid in that situation. I think we take it for granted sometimes that, we just think their fields are great. But like what you're saying, like even your point of view around like grading from the pitcher's mound out, I've never heard that perspective before. So, and for all you Little League listeners out there, your coaches, your parents, like, expect excellence from your fields. We all pay a lot of money to play the sports out there and play, baseball, soccer, football, and we want our kids to have the best surface possible to play. And that's why the Slide's bringing you this interview today, right, Patrick?
Yeah, that's you hit the nail on the head there. Like the problem is the bar is so low, so we're starting at a place for, that, like you said, is irresponsible. And we can do better. There's no question about it. Because here's the thing. Here's a dirty little secret. It's not that hard. Not every field has to look like Yankee Stadium, right? But it just has to be safe.
Right.
That's all we're looking for is just have it be safe. And that portion is not that hard. So, one of the bigger problems, and this is if you keep peeling back that onion, there's going to be so many different layers to this. But, especially at the high school level, you're talking about situations where sometimes sports turf managers don't even exist. They have campus full of athletic fields and no professional there to take care of them.
Right.
And that's just an ongoing issue. And, that's why you get the problem sometimes of synthetic turf coming in, because of these schools that are just not going to hire anybody to take care of it. It's like buying a car and expecting to never take it to a mechanic. It doesn't make sense at any level.
I know one of the taglines, and I saw this on your website, of course, and is for any budget. So I'm going to speak on behalf of like our league, actually, we rent fields from our Parks and Recs department. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure many of our listeners out there do the same thing. What would you suggest is our approach, going to our boards and our Park and Recs teams and saying, hey, can you guys, contact DuraEdge? What would you suggest is our selling point to them?
You're going to play safer games. I mean, it's always safety. That's number one. As a sports turf manager, our mantra is safety and playability. And safety is always first, and it's that simple. If we want our kids to go out and enjoy the game. And, it's hard to enjoy it when you're worried about losing teeth.
Right.
So
you don't think about it until it happens either. So
exactly.
Too late at that point.
I don't know, Mark, maybe you can mention it. Like, my opinion is it's hard, for participation in baseball. If young kids are getting hurt all the time, they're not going to want to play. I don't know if that's just my own little theory. It's got no data to back it up. But, Mark, what's been your experience in that?
First of all, Patrick's right. I mean, safety should be the number one issue. And the reality is that, youth sports in general, the price tag has gone up to play. And so, you've got clubs and teams renting facilities from municipalities and high schools and paying, I don't know what the rate is, but I know that the field that we just looked at that I'm playing on right now, I pay $100 an hour to rent. It's an AstroTurf field.
Wow.
$100 an hour to rent. And parents are, and that's pretty high level baseball, but it's kind of like expected that you would pay kind of at that level to play at. And so hour, or even if it's $50 an hour or $25 an hour, you can afford a pretty good field.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing that Patrick just talked is achievable at $25 to $50 an hour. But we're paying that right now, and we're not getting, as a sport, in particular at the youth level, we're not getting the fields that we deserve for $25 to $50 an hour.
Well, that sounds insane, right? When you say $25 to $50 an hour, that kind of sounds insane when you think about our world and the economy today. But when reality, it's not that expensive, really, when you like drill it down per kid and per participation.
It's nothing. And, the reality is that I mean, to get 2 umpires at a game is anywhere from $70 to $100 an hour.
Yeah.
And it's going up.
If you can get them to show up.
If you can get them to show up. And so, our mission as a company is to educate the market that, that it's achievable to get a better baseline for both safety and performance that is achievable for youth baseball and high school baseball and softball. It's just a big part of it's just raising standards. I mean, expectations. And what is achievable is at a price point that people are already paying.
Right.
Most municipalities, when they run out their field, they're renting them out at $25 to $50 an hour.
So, like for me, I feel like a lot of good baseball players come out of the Dominican Republic. How are their facilities versus the ones that you guys can provide, and like what you're seeing here on a youth baseball league level?
Yeah, well, it's a really good point. So, I mean, the idea is that, these Dominican players play on these terrible surfaces. They do until they're 14. And then at 14 and above, they're brought under the umbrella of Major League Baseball and play on very high-quality surfaces from the age of 14 on up. And so as a result of that, whereas, North American players, in particular, it's not as much true. I mean, you get down to Florida and Georgia, South Carolina, it's kind of on the border. They typically play on better fields, better quality natural fields. But if you take like an infielder from the Northeast and an infielder from the Midwest who has played on bad fields their entire lives, they create bad habits. And then they're drafted against a Dominican kid who looks like he can field with ease. Reality is that the Dominican kid has been playing on good fields since he was 14. The kid from the Midwest is playing on bad fields since he was 14, and he's afraid of the baseball. Everything Patrick just said. When he was 10, he got hit in the face. And there's always that little bit of fear and a little bit of cautiousness that the Dominican kid doesn't have. And so the general thought is, well, Dominican kids field better. Well, no, they just play on better fields. And they're Dominican kids, and they play on better fields. And that should be kind of like a call to action around youth baseball in the U.S. There's no reason our players shouldn't play on better quality fields than Dominican players.
Like one of the bigger problems, like to solve this issue at this level, is to make people aware that the sports turf profession is not landscaping. It's completely different. The sports turf contractor is different than a road grader, because a lot of the youth programs are playing on municipal fields. So in my area, there are some municipalities that have excellent talent taking care of their fields. These are guys that sometimes they used to be at the professional level and they went to municipalities. Other municipalities are not. They're the other end of the spectrum. They're terrible. So, it's getting better, but still a lot of these municipalities are relying on landscapers to come in and say, cut these fields once a week. And while they're at it, they might throw a drag on their mower and drag the field at 100 miles an hour. These are on fields that are being used in a week's time. How many games, practices do these fields see? And they're given attention once a week. The math isn't even close. That's part of the problem. In the municipalities that I see, the places that people want to live and have good, vibrant park and rec associations have better fields and better talent, working those fields. And they're not landscapers. They're sports turf professionals. So that's a big part of the issue.
I think there's a significant difference. If our youth listeners right now, there's a difference between a landscaper and someone who would take care of your infield. There's a significant difference in talent that you're looking for at that point. And, a takeaway from me, because I always try to look and see, all right, so the parent listening to this call, how this really, because it's easy for us as parents to say, oh my gosh, like call these guys right now. Like, let's fix this surface. But then, as I asked you guys earlier, like from a parks and rec standpoint, I can charge a higher premium for my fields if I put a quality product out there, right? So now I'm able to charge a little bit more. And as a parent, maybe that means I spend an extra $25 a season, if that much. But at least I know my kids, like the surface they're going to be playing with, I'm not going to end up with missing teeth because a ball took a wrong bounce or a broken jaw or a black eye. As a parent, I haven't ever experienced that yet. I haven't ever had a kid like have a black eye from a bad bounce, but someone has. And, being able to prevent that one from happening, or that one bad bounce that breaks that kid's behavior and scared to get in the front of the ball again, that's pretty important. Like Mark was saying earlier, like when you start playing on professional grade fields and infields that are taken care of, you're dealing with a different ball that's coming to you at that point. The bounce is different. The spin's different. Am I correct, Mark?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the spin is true. The ball stays down. The game is fielding a ground ball becomes fundamentally easier on a good surface. So what's happened in a lot of cases is we've gone to synthetic surface, artificial surface, because of the issues Patrick mentioned with maintaining, dirt infields and the challenges of maintaining them and putting the right materials in place and all that kind of stuff. There's been like an exaggerated move to artificial surfaces, which have their own set of issues.
Just because I don't want to have to deal with it again, right?
I don't have to deal with it again. So we've gone from $25 a game to $100 a game, an hour.
Right.
So we kind of leapfrogged the whole thing by spending a fortune on something that degrades pretty quickly. There's environmental issues, degrades quickly, and has its own set of safety issues.
Sure.
With respect to playing on wet surfaces and players slipping and that kind of stuff on poorly maintained artificial surfaces. Because there's this theory that you don't have to maintain it once it's artificial, which is not true at all, because a poorly maintained artificial surface is flat out dangerous to play on.
That's even worse in some cases.
It's even worse in terms of, I've sat on the field and seen 2 broken legs because of kids sliding on wet artificial surfaces, and they just snap their legs at second base.
That's another thing that I guess really I haven't thought about as a parent or a coach is like, you want to teach these kids how to slide correctly, but like how you slide is dictated by the surface that you're sliding on. I mean, and that can cause some serious injuries there in itself.
Can you talk a little bit about how the baseball surface is different, or how you do the grading differently than a softball field? So you're probably not going to do from the mound out with a softball field because there's technically no mound.
What I meant by the mound out, when you're solving problems, whether on a softball field or a baseball field, if you have to take it in steps. Like if I'm in a high school and they say, all right, we only have a limited amount of funds, where can we start? And I'm like, all right, if you want something simple, fast, and probably least expensive, let's start with the mound and plate. Every single play in baseball and softball starts at the mound and plate, and you can make a huge difference in 1 to 2 days work just fixing those areas right there. And people say, wow, look, what else can we do? Now, from the grading standpoint, you grade them in a similar fashion. So there's a couple different ways to grade, and a lot of times it depends on where you are, because you may have to tie into the overall topography of the site.
Right.
All right. But if you're just starting from scratch, if you have a conical grade at 0.5%, which 1%, if you go 100 feet and you have a fall of 1 foot, that's 1%. So 0.5%, that would be 6 inches over 100 feet, right?
That's minor.
Yeah.
It's very, very minor. So that's the ideal for infield skin, whether it be softball or baseball. The dynamic of softball is a little different because of the mound. So that area, normally we have that grade. If we try to make it flat, that will be impossible to maintain. And in between the mound and plate, we'll end up getting concave and we'll have other issues.
Yeah, so we were just talking before the recording started, Patrick, Mark, and I, about the turf fields, and the university that I went to and played ball at is now turf. It was not turf when I was there, but I always wondered, like, a visiting team coming in that's used to practicing on a dirt field or a clay field, whatever you want to call it, and then comes to turf, how much different that must be for them. And I think they have to wear turf shoes. The hop is different. Yeah, I mean, everything is just so different. So I could imagine that a DuraEdge field would be like the best of both worlds, I guess, like better ability to maintain through weather changes, but then also have the same exact bounce as you were used to in practice. Yeah.
It's all about consistency. And the thing, if you have the natural versus synthetic argument, and especially on baseball and softball, what any athletic field is concentrated wear areas. With synthetic, you're still going to get that first base area worn out. That second base sliding pit is going to wear out. Now, with synthetic, it's like chain link fence. Once you dent it, you never get it back right. That infield just doesn't get back in there the same way. And I've tried everything. You know, I've tried power brooms. I've tried all kinds of different things. And you never quite get it back the right way.
Yeah.
It's on a DuraEdge or any dirt surface. I can spend 15 minutes at first base and come away with it perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I can do that every single time.
What's the life cycle of, so if I bring in DuraEdge product, you know, at the beginning of a spring season, what's the lifespan of that product and what I'm looking like? What's my investment? How long is that surface going to really stay there before I need to backfill and change out that infield a little bit more?
Generally speaking, we have fields that are under our maintenance team also takes care of, meaning they go in every 3 years and laser grade again.
Wow.
So after 3 years, we usually take 8 to 10 tons to top it off.
Okay.
Regrade. You know, the dirt, it doesn't die.
Right.
It lasts, but yeah, it's going to move around a little over that many games. But generally speaking, if it's a 2-inch cap or a full 4-inch column of DuraEdge, that's the cycle we go on. We clean the top dressings that we use, get rid of it, regrade with some fresh DuraEdge on top, and then grade it, recompress it, put top dressing back on.
That's impressive, though. 3 years. I mean, so your initial investment, generally speaking, a 2-year life cycle, let's just cut it a year and say 2 years. Like that's a pretty good investment to make because, I mean, now granted, I don't know the price per square foot and all that good stuff. And like I said, I'm a lawn nut. So I bring in, like last year, I brought in 20 tons of sand just to put it out on my lawn. And really 20 tons for our listeners, that's not a lot. Like it'll disappear before you know it. So when he says every 3 years, you may bring in 8 to 10 tons, that's really not even, that's what, a half a dump truck maybe?
I can tell you real life story. At Yankee Stadium, I did the field saver process in 2015. After the initial investment of that field saver product, which field saver is great because you can do it in one truckload, 125-ton truckload on an average size baseball field of 11,000 to 11,500 square feet. And after that initial investment, my line item for infield dirt for the next 3 years was zero, where usually it was around, as I recall, 7,500.
Yeah.
So the moral of that story is you get the right materials that you should not be buying infield dirt every year, which is a huge mistake I see all over the place. People bringing in a truckload of dirt every year, and they end up with this huge plateau. I've seen it on a professional field where I took 40 tons of dirt off the field, put it in their parking lot because of that factor. And that's why I mean grade is everything.
Well, and that's what a lot of people and coaches really probably sometimes don't pay attention to is there's too much dirt on some of the fields because they're trying to prepare for a rainy season or they're trying to prepare for the weather that's coming. When in reality, like I'm walking in batter's boxes and I'm having to kick out 2 inches of dirt, you know, for the guys to actually get their feet planted in the batter's box. And, you know, I've talked to parents about field conditions. And as long as it looks groomed, you know, parents really, we don't see past that initial, just that, I want to say, model in the front glass. You know, you see that shiny thing and it looks like it's well taken care of. I can't put the right words to that one, Jen. Maybe.
Well, yeah, what you're describing is like when you talk about weather, people think that as long as there's no standing water on there.
Right. It's taken care of. Yeah, it's good.
Go for it. And it's like, no. I remember my first year at Ripken, it was awful. We had a rainstorm unexpected. We hadn't put the tarps on, and I was on the stadium field, and the dirt was in horrible condition at the time. And I was struggling to throw calcined clay around, trying to dry it out. And struggling meaning staying upright as I threw it with a shovel because it was so slippery. And I remember the tournament director and the coach was standing and he goes, "Oh, we play on this worse than this all the time." And I started getting a little upset. I waited till the coach
You're okay with this? Right.
And, you know, so it was just me and the tournament director. And I said, "Look, let's make no mistake. We're just putting kids out on garbage right now. That's all we're doing. this is wrong and this kind of thing is going to change. Like I said, this was my first year, so I had to impose my
pull back a little bit. Yeah.
So, and things did change. We didn't do that anymore. And that's the issue. People worry about so much about what we're going to do when it rains. They forget that field actually has to play good when the sun's shining too.
That's right.
And that's what we play for these games when it's good weather. And so it can't just be a cement dusty bowl either. That's no good on the other extreme.
Yeah. That's what we're playing on most of the time down here.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of it, I think, Jen, you were mentioning about like the difference between softball and baseball, starting at the mound, going out. I mean, I think the number in baseball, Patrick, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is like over 70% of the game is played on the dirt. And I'm sure it's very similar in the softball world, that most of the game is played on the dirt. And so, as parents, as parks and rec people, as boards in youth baseball, I mean, if we focus our effort on the 70%, we can make a lot of progress and making things better.
That's right.
And improving. And it just, whether it's just starting from the mound and the plate, getting to the infield, I mean, focusing on that 70% can make a huge difference. And it doesn't cost that much when you get down to it. I mean, sure, there's a bigger number up front and you have to worry about financing it and funding it. But I promise you it's going to turn out to be $25 to $50 a game or an hour.
Do you know what we used, like if a rainstorm came and then we were able to get back on the field again, do you know what we used to spruce up the mound and behind the plate, which is where I played, behind the plate? Do you know what we used?
Cat litter.
Cat litter.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it soaks it up.
Because it soaks the water up. That's right.
Well, at least you didn't light it on fire.
Have you seen a field lit on fire, Patrick?
It used to happen quite a bit.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, my God.
It used to be like you see pictures of it now and people are outraged, but it used to be a pretty regular practice.
Oh, I know. I mean, I've seen it actually. I've seen someone actually do it at a JUCO.
Wow.
5 or 6 years ago. And a guy thought he was doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well,
in all seriousness, I tried it. I was in Altoona and I had some time on my hands, which is always dangerous. And so I went out on the field. I had matches, a lighter, wood, newspaper, gasoline, and I could not make a fire. So I think it was just somebody's paper. Like that was divine providence just keeping me from harming myself. So
that's awesome. It was funny last year we played in a tournament. It was actually a pretty big tournament that we played in, and we had a horrendous rainstorm the day before. And so I walk out on the field and you start seeing ruts, where kids or someone's been out there in their cleats and those ruts are sticking in that red clay. And so I go knock on the office door and I'm like, I need a landscaping rake. Like I got to knock these ruts down. I'm that coach that's out there on the field, trying to level the surface out. It's not that I want, my kids to be safe. I want all the kids to be safe. I think that's where it really comes down to it is, you guys both have made the connection around having a good surface to play on. That's where your fundamentals come in and you level the play-in surface for everyone at that point. And I think that's, that's a statement that's used a lot, leveling the play-in surface. We're literally talking about that today. That's literal. Why should a kid, just because they're good enough, get that great surface? Who knows how many talents and how many stars that we've lost because they lost their confidence because of that one bad hop that broke them of the game. Yep. Our show is really catered. We want to cater to the youth sport, but we want these kids to be safe and while they're doing it. And I think it's only fair for us to ask for that play-in surface to be level for everyone.
Let me tell another story that hopefully hits home with your coaches. And once I was at Ripken for a couple of years and we got things straightened out, we would always start our tournaments at 8 a.m. So I would bring my guys in at 6 a.m. to get ready and whatnot. A lot of times, just Murphy's Law, we'd get that 5 a.m. rainstorm. And, once I had my field set up right, as long as, that didn't bother me at all. We would come in at 6, I'd take a walk around the fields, and we would just put new lines down. There might be a small puddle at home plate, the size of my foot. And, so when you have these fields set up right, you don't have to worry. you don't have to panic every time it rains. As a matter of fact, it was great because it just helped us have good moisture throughout the day. So the other point in that, one of the hardest things I had to do when we got rain during a tournament is keeping the coaches in the outfield or the dugout.
Right.
Thing is, like, as soon as that rain stopped, oh, you got to get out there and do something. Get out there and do something.
Right.
I'd be like, no, just stay calm. If you wait, in a lot of cases, especially in the summertime, you wait 15 minutes, you can start playing in 20 minutes. If you get right out on the field, as soon as that last raindrop stops, you're going to delay for an hour or more.
Right. You start imprinting on the field.
You're going to do nothing but destroy it and make it mud. Let Mother Nature do some of the work. And that's where the good grade comes in. You have a good grade, the water is going to go where it needs to go, which means off the field.
Sure.
Even in cases where your grade's not perfect, instead of fixing an entire field, sometimes you just got to fix a 4x4 foot area. That's a lot easier. So maybe it's a 30-minute wait.
And it's really an education process across baseball that, I mean, Patrick and people like Patrick are doing a great job of kind of trying to get that out there on how to take care of it, how to respond to weather, etc. You know, it's just, we're just on a journey of trying to educate the market on how to do that with a natural surface the right way.
Right. I don't know that as a coach, and I've got two sons that, you know, came through baseball. I played, you know, Little League, Pony, high school, all that good stuff. And I don't think I've ever heard, you know, because I'm that player that as soon as that last raindrop drops, get me on the field. Mm-hmm. You know, that it makes perfect sense when you stop and think about it. Like, give that soil time to settle, give the rain a chance to have its drainage, and then now you're playing with a good surface. Well, awesome. I mean, this is pretty amazing, and it's awesome to learn some of this stuff. Is just, you know, how the small things that we take for granted every day, like the field playing surface, how it can play a major part in our kids, their self-esteem, their confidence. There's all those things that come into play with this. And it's not just about making your dirt better. It's really about like putting your kids on the best surface to play and show their talents. I think that's what you guys bring. So I saw you guys were in Columbia, South Carolina. I saw you guys share a video I think it was a couple days ago. You guys were in Casey, South Carolina or something. So you guys were delivering a mix out to South Carolina. You know, go check out, you know, DuraEdge's Instagram. There's a cool video we just shared where you guys completely renovate a softball field, and you're cutting the outfield lines with the edgers. You know, you're going through that whole process. Do you guys offer that full scale, a la carte kind of renovation, or how do you guys operate from that?
Yeah, we have what we call our home field crews that do installs with DuraEdge product, and sometimes it was a simple field saver renovations, or it could be what I call an infield arc and apron renovation. And then depending on where in the country we are, we also have partners that we work with that we call certified DuraEdge installers.
Okay.
Because we want the right people installing the material if we're going to put our name on that field.
Right.
So there are some excellent sports turf contractors. It's funny that two of the best in the country are sitting in North Carolina, as it were, Nolan Thomas and Carolina Green. Yeah, that's how we do this. So we have partners. Depends, like I said, which part of the country you're in, which partner we use to do these things.
Okay. Well, awesome. So for all of our listeners out there, definitely take a look at DuraEdge. At least educate yourself on what the possibilities could be. And I can tell you, DuraEdge, you guys make it very clear to any budget you guys can work within. And I think that for the average listener out there right now, how is that possible? How do you make it work with any budget?
The smaller budgets, like I said, if somebody they need to do something to that field to improve it, right? And they've got to, for a few $1,000s, that's the mound and plate renovation.
Right. Okay.
Start with that because you'll make the most significant difference. Because like I said, every play in the game starts right there. Human nature, once people see that and once they see the improvement, what else can we do?
Right.
What if we fix that over there? Can we fix that? How about that? And it just let it domino from there.
Jen, I know you know this from a softball perspective, but we put masks on these kids now in the infield.
Yeah.
And we put masks on these kids for a reason is because we don't have a lot of confidence in our fields in reality. It's not got anything to do with that kid in the circle for a 6U or an 8U. Like, it's not got nothing to do with their skill set. It's got to do with really our, what we have confidence in on playing on. And I think we can make a big difference. So,
Aaron and Jen, there was a softball field, a Division I softball field I worked with. It was one of those programs that nobody wanted to play. They were pretty good, but it's not a big name. And they had infielders getting hit in the face every practice.
Wow.
Division I, so we worked with them on their surface. And the good thing about softball fields is they tend to be really easy to fix. Baseball fields are a little different because of the transitions that they have, but softball fields are easy, Jen, where did you play ball?
I played at Gardner Webb.
Okay.
Right outside of like Shelby, Charlotte.
Springs, North Carolina.
North Carolina. Yeah. But from my softball perspective, here's what I want to know. Because some of the best times I had were right after a big rain shower while all the crew was out on the field.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I still have time to dance, because that's when we danced our most, was when the crew was out on the field fixing the field and we were waiting on them to get done. We had some really good times.
I tell you what, I would always get the time to dance.
I think we just established our next video for our social media is that's when it's raining. I'm going to run over and videotape you, Jen, dancing out in the rain.
That was the best times when the crew's out on the field, the rain shower is over, and we're just waiting to get back on the field. We're pumped up, and it's time to dance. Yeah.
You can always work that in.
Okay. All right.
They would always want me to dance, and I'm like, guys, I got work to do. Plus, I can't dance. So it's somebody like you to lean on. I could send, they can dance.
There you go. Awesome. Well, hey, guys, I thank you very much for coming on the show, talking to us about your product. I got one last question for each one of you guys. So I ask this for every single person that comes on the show. And I say every like that because it sounds like I've recorded 100 episodes, but I've only recorded maybe 6. But Patrick, if you're walking up to the plate today, you're holding a bat in your hand and you're stepping up to plate, what's your walkout music? What do you want to put you in the zone, to put you in the mood, to ready to hit that dinger?
Okay, so I'm going to steal from my past to answer this question because I actually use this. Instead of a pickup song, we had the song that we went out and drugged the field with.
Okay.
And Dropkick Murphys.
Okay.
Shipping off to Boston.
Who said Dropkick Murphys kick you off the bus?
Shipping up to Boston.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Gotcha. Up to Boston.
If you recall, the Martin Scorsese flick, but you've heard the song, I can promise.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
The Deposit.
All right, Mark.
I would probably go with, some hardcore John Cougar Mellencamp,
Okay. Little Pink Houses.
The Little Pink Houses.
There you go. Born in the USA.
Or Jack and Diane.
Jack and Diane.
It would be something like that.
Hey, you know what's funny? And I'll put this out there just for everybody. I don't have a lot of home videos of me out there, but there is videos of me dancing to John Cougar Mellencamp. So, and I want to say it was like Jack and Diane or something.
Yeah.
So that's classic stuff. So I'm a music buff, so I always have to ask that question to everyone. So, hey, thank you guys very much for coming on the show. Mark, thank you for stepping away from your practice. I know you guys got kids out there waiting to hear you yell and scream at them and cheer them on.
You know what? So I'm having this great experience. I'm sitting here watching them run their own practice.
Yeah.
And they're doing really well.
Awesome.
It's like really a satisfying moment. I may just set the car.
There you go. That's leadership. That's teaching leadership right there. Run your own practice. Hey, Mark, thank you very much. Patrick, thank you guys for joining us. And, we'll have this episode. We plan on having this episode posted within the next 2 weeks. So thank you guys very much. We hope to see, your brand, your reputation continue to grow and give our kids the best opportunity and the level playing surface they all deserve. So thank you guys very, very much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Slide Podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, stay connected with Coach Jen and Aaron on Instagram at The Slide Podcast Show, on Facebook at The Slide Podcast, and the Facebook private group, the SLIDE Podcast. Until next time.